Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. A 21-year-old self-described incel was arrested and charged with planning to participate in a hate crime and possession of a machine gun after prosecutors revealed that he was planning the murder of women at an unnamed Ohio university. Now, your Tres Jenko, who was arrested and charged with one count of attempting to commit a hate crime and one count of illegally possessing a machine gun, is alleged to have been planning a mass shooting since 2019. Now, many people see your Tres Jenko, who was inspired by Elliot Rodger, the man who participated in the La Isla Vista mass shooting, as an individual participating in an isolated mass shooting. But when I take a critical examination of these reports regarding your 21-year-old Tres Jenko and his alleged plans to participate in a mass shooting, they fit right in line with the pattern and profile I talk about regarding beta males in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I take a critical examination of the reports regarding your 21-year-old Tres Jenko and his alleged actions, they fit the pattern and profile I talk about as related to incels and the man crisis, and mass shootings and the man crisis. Now, when it comes down to your incels, like your 21-year-old Tres Jenko are alleged to be, many of these men have an extremely dysfunctional frame of thinking. And it's that extremely dysfunctional frame of thinking that makes them believe that they are justified in participating in the violence that they plan to do, like these mass shootings, because many of these men believe that they are being denied access to women and they're being denied the inability to have sex with women. Now, because these men have grown up with an extremely dysfunctional frame of thinking regarding relationships, many of these men believe that the only way for them to graduate to manhood is for them to be able to have a romantic relationship where they can have a sexual encounter. Now, many of these men, they get these ideas primarily from your Madison Avenue advertising, Hollywood movies, and your pornographic films. Many of these men, they have an extremely dysfunctional frame of thinking because they believe that the only way for them to become a man is through a sexual encounter and a relationship with a woman. And because these women in the real world aren't paying attention to them, they cannot go out here and graduate to manhood. So many of these males are extremely frustrated and angry at women because those women are not giving them an opportunity to have a relationship with them. But the big problem isn't with the woman. No, the big problem is the incel, and the big problem is the incel's extremely dysfunctional frame of thinking. Now, this incel's frame of thinking is similar to that of a female because the incel believes that women are just supposed to come up to him and approach him. Now, the incel comes to this frame of thinking in many cases due to the fact that he's been raised in a single mother household, and because he's been raised in a single mother household, he believes that he has a higher value out here, and he thinks that just because he's male, he's just supposed to stand up here and the women are just supposed to come to him. Unfortunately, that's not how it works in the world of dating and relationships. And in the world of dating and relationships, a man has to go out here and approach women. Unfortunately, many of your incels are either extremely introverted or extremely delusional, and because of this, they don't have the confidence or the courage to go up to approach women, because a lot of these males, they are afraid of rejection. And because they're afraid of rejection, they go out here and they get upset at other guys who are having relationships with women and having sexual encounters with women. But many of these men, these incels, they don't want to put in the work that other men do out here when it's time to go out here and pursue relationships with women. And because these men go out here and put in the work and get the results, what happens is the incel sits there seething in anger, getting extremely jealous, and then simmering and boiling in anger because these men are going out here having relationships with the women they want. But many of these incels cannot connect the dots and understand that many of those men are having relationships with women because they put in the work. And because those men are willing to go out here and get rejected, take those L's, and continue to persevere, those men get results. But your incel doesn't understand this because, again, your incel is a guy who lives in a world of rose-colored glasses, and in that world of rose-colored glasses, he does not see the real world as it actually is. No, the incel sees the world from an extremely distorted point of view, and in that distorted point of view, he believes that he is being denied the ability to have relationships with women due to the women not liking him. But the big problem with the incel is he does not like himself. And because he does not like himself, he then projects this on to women, and then he wants to go out here and get angry at the women for not paying attention to him. When the critical question that needs to be asked is, why should anybody want to pay attention to a guy who does not like himself, does not have any confidence in himself, and does not have any sort of discipline or resolve to be able to go out here and persevere? Because whenever most women look at many of these beta male incels, they see nothing but weakness, and all they see is a guy who's sitting there simmering and boiling in anger, and nobody wants to deal with that at all. Now, in addition to this, many of your incels, they live, again, in that rose-colored reality, and in that rose-colored reality, many of these men are living in their own world. And your Tres Jenko, if reports are to be confirmed, was really living in his own world, and he was, in 2019, sitting there plotting this massacre, even though he was recruited into the United States military. Now, this man planned to go out here and get military training so he could go out here and participate in this mass shooting. Unfortunately, due to his inability to have any sort of discipline and resolve, he wound up failing in the military, and he wound up getting kicked out of the military. And that's par for the course when it comes down to many of your beta males. They are oftentimes, they have these big dreams, but because many of these men don't have any discipline, character, or resolve, they never are able to follow through. And this guy, he wanted to go out to Army basic training, and he wound up getting kicked out in December of 2019 due to poor performance and conduct. And that fits right in line with the pattern as related to beta males, because many of these men, they don't want to put in the work. And this guy didn't want to put in the work in the military. He had a big delusion talking about how he wanted to go out here and learn this training and talk about he was going to have a big kill count, but he couldn't even dealing with big male authority figures like a drill sergeant. That's another thing as related to your beta male. They oftentimes crumble in the face of authority figures, and they wind up falling completely apart in the presence of a male authority figure like a drill sergeant in the military. And I'm guaranteeing that these drill sergeants probably saw the issues with this guy, because I remember watching Full Metal Jacket where they had that guy, Pyle, and the sergeant was seeing issues with him and trying to work with him. But the whole thing was, if this guy is what they call Section 8, there's not much they can do with that kind of guy except discharge him. And this guy really had serious issues, because if you're sitting there admiring someone like Elliot Rodger, who is, a mass murderer, then there's something clearly wrong with you. And there's something clearly wrong with incels, because many of these men elevate Elliot Rodger to a high level in their minds and admire this man, but there's nothing to admire about Elliot Rodger, because Elliot Rodger was nothing but a coward, because he didn't want to go out here and put in that work in himself. He did not have that discipline to take girls saying no to him, and he believed that because he was some sort of god in his mind, women were just supposed to approach him and want to have relationships with him just because he was there. But the big problem with Elliot Rodger and this Tres Jenko and many other incels is that many of these men, they are living in their own world. They are not living in reality. They don't want to go out here and put in any work towards improving themselves. And they believe that because women aren't paying attention to them, this justifies them being able to go out here and plan mass murder. Well, I have to say to you, you have no right to take anybody's life because you don't want to get your life in order. It is just completely wrong to even think about taking somebody's life, all because you're upset that the girls that you want to pay attention to you aren't interested in you, and those women don't even know that you're interested in them because you don't have the courage to go out here and approach them. And that is something that flies over the incel's head. And as they're sitting in their homes, sitting there angry and coming up with these delusional plans, they're thinking they have a right to go out here and do harm to others, but you don't have a right to do harm to anyone. Now, they said on March 12th that your Tres Jenko allegedly threatened people with a gun, and this was what triggered the whole prosecution of him. They said that he called somebody up and then threatened them and then cocked a firearm, and this is what led to the investigation. And I thank God that that investigation was started, because that wound up saving a lot of lives. And that's something that I'm really grateful for, because nobody needs to lose their life because one of these beta males doesn't want to get their life in order, and nobody should lose their life because one of these beta males goes out here and doesn't want to put in the work of being a man and doesn't want to go out here and take any sort of loss. No, many of these men, they want to go out here and cause loss of life because they don't want to lose, and that just shows how selfish and narcissistic many of these incels are. They're sitting there talking about somebody's denying them the ability to have sex, but many of these men, they don't see that they're not even anyone would want to be sexually attracted to because of the content of their character. And many of these men, they are just complete cowards, and they want to make it look like, oh, I'm such a victim, but you're not a victim at all. The problem is you just don't want to go out here and do what a man does, which is go out here and fail, go out here and lose, go out here and persevere. And when I look at them, these guys, they can sit here and write 20, 30-page manifestos like this Richard Jenko is alleged to do. Not Richard Jenko, Tres Jenko is alleged to do. And again, they can sit there and come up with these plans, but then they don't want to go out here and do the work that needs to be done. So they're sitting there in their fantasy world, and that the whole thing is that many of these men don't want to confront reality. But the reality is that this Tres Jenko is looking at some serious jail time for participating in an alleged hate crime, and he's definitely probably going to do time for having that illegal machine gun. So this guy, he went from having a really, as I see it, directionless life, and where he was struggling to navigate life, and now he's on the road to prison, where he's going to wind up getting his hair braided by Bubba and Tiny, getting spit roasted by Bubba and Tiny, and then being traded for Little Debbie snack cakes your ramen noodles, and your Fritos chips, and your cups of coffee, all because he was angry at women. Well, the great irony is that Tres Jenko, if he is convicted, won't be around a lot of women, but though he'll be around a lot of men, and a lot of those men are going to go out here and turn him out, because your incels who sit there and say they're being denied the ability to have sex with women, well, they're going to be having a lot of sex with a lot of men once they wind up inside of these federal prison. And that's where this guy is headed, all because he did not have any sort of critical thinking skills, and he didn't have any sort of male life skills or male survival skills, because if he had male life skills or male survival skills taught to him by his father or other men, he would not be in this situation. And what's really sad is he could have learned all of this stuff in the military. Unfortunately, because he did not have the discipline to go out here and persevere in the face of adversity, or even do the basic duties, because oftentimes in the military, if you can't even do the basics, they will try to find a way to help you out. But if you're at this level and they're discharging you, that really shows that you're not even fit for combat. And this is what happened to this U.S. Army washout who wanted to go out here and wage war, but couldn't even handle the basics as related to basic training. And again, that's par for the course with your beta male, because your beta male, oftentimes they have big dreams, but many of these men, they just don't know how to do anything. And this beta male, all he did was come up with a big plan that led to him winding up in being charged with federal charges, and he's going to wind up possibly in jail for the rest of his life, all because he was upset about women. Well, he won't have to worry about women after this, because he's going to be around men if he's convicted for the rest of his life. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn more about what drives extremely dysfunctional and troubled men like this, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also pick it up on Smashwords, the iBook store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Coming to paperback and e-readers in 2021, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks on a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business in 2021 at online booksellers everywhere.